This is recording. Okay. Join it as a co-host. Put caption on this one. We're gonna share. Okay, so we are doing lab 2. Basically we start with data acquisition. Looking back now, 4 GB might not be ideal. I think that the smaller the USB, the faster it's gonna be. So throughout the lab indicates that if it takes a little bit of time, even if you don't have a lot of data on it, right? You're gonna find that the larger your storage, the longer it's gonna take. Okay, all right. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to download the Linux virtual machine to our computer. Kali provides really great tools for forensic. It also has Kali forensic mode, but we are going to use the normal mode. So you can press Control and click or copy and paste the URL onto your browser. So I press Control on my keyboard and I click the link, and you would see that there is this page that opens. You are going to use this virtual machine again in the future, but I recommend that you download the latest version as you use it. Some of you are like, well, if I have last year version, can I use it? You can. What you will find is that there's certain tools that they don't support in the older version, so you're required to use a newer version anyway. So when you land on this page, after you click the link, you are going to use the VirtualBox option. There are other type of virtual machines, same thing, but using different software or hypervisor. You're going to click this download option under the VirtualBox. Click this one. Okay. And that's going to take a few minutes to, I recommend click save as. Okay, do not, yeah. Once you click the download, especially if you're using Edge browser, click save as, and then make sure that it's in your downloads folder and click save. Okay, so make sure we save our download, click save as under our downloads folder, because this is a compressed file, and if you try to open it regularly, it's not going to work. So once you click the download, we make sure we click save as and put it on your downloads folder. The current version is to 2025.2. Okay, so once you have this download, would take a few minutes. You are going to unzip it. Some of you are very familiar with this because you took this, my security class or other classes that require this, right? Ethical hacking class, they use virtual machines regularly, especially Kali. So once I have my download, I'm going to extract it using 7-zip. So if you do this at home on your laptop or whatever, make sure you have VirtualBox, right? To open your machine in the later step, make sure that you install 7-zip. Okay. And it's a quick install. You can go to 7zip.org and then download it and install. The reason why is Kali, they released the file as a .7zip. Okay, not a regular zip, but a 7-zip. Okay. A 7Z. Okay. So once I have it downloaded, my download is complete. Sorry. Let me get back to Edge, which is here, right? It shows that I have a little bit left. I'm going to go open up my File Explorer and then go to download. See how it's showing unconfirmed? That means it's not done, right? You got to wait for everything to go. Now, if you do this at home, it can be very quick. I only have like 0.08 second left. Sometimes it doesn't always exactly real time. So once I have it downloaded, I'm going to extract it and then I'm going to open it in my VirtualBox app. But you can also double click the blue file. Okay. Make sure we have our lab USB. It says CIS27A on it. And you are going to plug it in and you're going to mount it into the software. Okay, so I'm going to show you how you can do that. Let me check. Yeah, mine seems to be hanging. Let's see. Yeah, I'm still at like the last second and it's not wrapping up the file. So might have to re-download again. Okay. Anyways, while it's doing that, I'm just gonna be patient and wait for it. So when you are finished, right, you're gonna extract it so you can simply right click it and then choose 7-zip and choose extract files. So you would see the step there. This says Toshiba drive, but what you can do is you can just click a generic USB and I'll show you how you can do that. So I'm just gonna go ahead and open up my VirtualBox app now. So click VirtualBox. I just search for VirtualBox here. You can search for Oracle as well. We're not going to use this one from last week. It's always going to be on the playlist or the library. But we are going to add the other virtual machine once we extract it. Okay, so it came down as a download, right? You see that there's a zip symbol. We cannot play it unless we extract it. So we're going to right click. And then we are going to go show more options. And then we're going to do 7-zip. Again, right? Go to your downloads folder. Find the Kali Linux download. Right click. Show more options. And then choose 7-zip and extract files. Okay. And then click OK. This is going to take a few minutes. So we have to decompress the file. The reason why they did this is so it's faster for you to download. Okay, so that was step 2. After I download, I plug in my USB and then I open up my VirtualBox app, which is you just search for VirtualBox and click on the app on your school computer. Now this opens up, yours might not have the VM like what I have from last week. If it does, we're not going to play this one, okay? What we're going to do is we are going to first, right? We're going to add the USB that we need, okay? Scratch the Toshiba. I don't think because if you do the Toshiba, it's going to take a very long time. So we're going to use the black USB that I provided today, okay? So we're going to plug that in. So open up the app, click settings. And on the left, you're going to see the USB tab. Click that. And if you don't have an extension package from VirtualBox, this is not an option. Okay. So you have to install the extension pack on your system. And I normally choose 2.0 or 3.0, the generic USB that you see, likely that it's going to be 2.0. It doesn't really matter, right? So if you want to be safe, you can click 2.0 because the 3.0 it can be read as a 2.0. Then you're going to click the plus sign on the right side right here. So again, I open up the app. I click on settings, and on the left, I'm going to find USB, and I'm going to click the plus sign. So here, it's going to list a bunch of USB things that it found. The black USB is going to be the generic mass storage, okay? Now, if you use other external hard drive, like the Toshiba one or the Western Digital or whatever, you're gonna find it on this list, right? So if you buy a cheap flash drive like what I've done, it's likely that it's gonna see it as a generic mass storage, this one. So we're gonna select this option, okay? Okay? So your software that plays the virtual machine has to see the device, and we're gonna click OK. Then we're gonna go ahead and click Add. And now we're gonna find our VM. We're gonna go to Downloads, open up the extracted folder, which is under Downloads. Again, the subfolder, double click, and we're gonna open up the VirtualBox file. Okay, so now I have my Kali. Again, I click Add, go to Downloads on the left, find my folder where it says Kali, K-A-L-I, double click it, open up its subfolder, and find your VBox file. It's always going to have a blue icon, and click it, and then click Open. So now it's part of the playlist. Then you're going to click Start. Okay, you can always check your settings. I recommend you throw it a little bit more RAM, right? If you want it to be a little faster. So in settings, you see this right here? That's your RAM option for the VM. So what it does is it takes the memory from the physical host system, and it's going to give it to the software more. So give it 4 gig or 8 if you want. Okay, so I'm going to put 4,000. That's good. Linux doesn't need too much. As you see, when I experience with these Alienware, when you give it 12 gig, it's not happy, even though there's like 32 gig on these computers. Okay, so 4,000 meg, and then if you want, you can also change the processor. Right now, by default, it's dual, right? Two processor for the, so in the physical system, there are 16 core for the Alienware. We're gonna take 2 and give it to the software for your virtual machine, or we can give it more. Let's do 4. Right? But you can use the standard default one. It's just gonna be slower. Okay. So I gave it 4 processor and I gave it more RAM, 4,000 megabyte, 4 gig. That should be okay because we have 32 gig of RAM and 16 core on the physical system. Once you have that, you check if your USB, oh, sorry, I mounted. So check your USB, click the plus sign. I should have done the other way around. Generic mask. I might have mounted to the Windows one, but if you mount.
You have your USB plugged in?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Plug your USB in, then set your USB and then mount it. I wonder, hold on. I can go 2.0 or 3.0. 2.0 is okay. And then click add. And then generic USB. Okay. And then once I have everything, I click start. And it's gonna boot and it's gonna do its thing, right? It's gonna take a few minutes to open up. So I think you should open up your virtual machine and then add your USB, whichever one. Just you can also do it later. I'll show you where you can put it. There's options and stuff. This mask is rubbing against my cheeks. Okay, the login for Kali is K-A-L-I for username and K-A-L-I for password. So if you have never used Linux before, today is going to be your first experience. Okay. And so at the end of this session, you should be able to note on your resume that you have used gparted to look at your disk partition. You also are going to be able to create an image from a USB, right? Using the dd command, which is what we see. Okay, so coming back, I just booted my virtual machine and it gives me the login. Click in it and start typing KALI for user account, press tab and type KALI for the password. So this is now step 8.
Are these USBs labeled anything? Do they have a?
It's just generic mass storage. It's gonna see that on the. Now, after this, you can practice, right? You can go home, take a small USB and you can see if you can create image with it. But, so what I want to do is first, I want you to look at partition of your drive. gparted is a tool. If you're familiar with fdisk in Windows, gpart is a way that we can use a Linux tool to look at section. Partition is like, you hear room partition at your house, right? So partition on the drive is just sections. Think of like little rooms on the drive for your storage. Okay. This is a good way to really think about like where does the file go, right? Dynamically, your computer takes your file and it's kind of scattered across, but it ties everything together with addresses. Let's think about it this way, right? I might have like 10 houses on the street. And what I can do is I can tell my family that they can be living across those 10 houses, but it's still my family, right? If one person, my mother can live at the first house, my father can live at the house down the street. So your file is ultimately in pieces, right? Across, but the computer, it keeps track of the addresses. And what it does is it's going to pull that together for your file. gparted allows you to look at sections of your storage, like your drive, your main disk or your external storage or whatever, by mounting it and looking at what's in that partition. Okay? So the first tool that we're going to look at is we're going to look at gparted, and this is a way that we can create partitions. So let's say that in a house, I can cut up many rooms, right? And I can live in the bedroom. I can stay in the living room. I can stay in the kitchen. So ultimately, we can partition, we can section our storage into many different areas of different things. So this part is, we're going to use the tool to kind of prepare our drive for our images. Okay. Okay. So once I'm logged in, I'm going to go ahead and open up the terminal. You're going to find that it's a little icon, black square at the top. And this is command line for Linux. So click on the black icon. Okay. And you're going to type gparted. So if the application is installed, you're going to see that it changes what your command into blue in Linux, in Kali. So I type in gparted and press enter. Now it prompts me the password, as you saw in the last step, step 8. The password is Kali, K-A-L-I. So the application looks like this, right? You're like, where is the house in the room that you said? Well, it's going to slowly show up and it's gonna say that it sees SDA1 it's like C drive in Linux, right? SDA1 is the first room, right, for my storage, my house. So it tells me right here that the size of the partition, which is the exe, this is the file system for Linux, and this is the root drive, right? And this is going to be 80 gig. And in the 80 gig, this is equivalent to C drive in Windows. We use up 16 for the Linux operating system for Kali, right? And then there is 63.71 gigabyte that's unused. So if you are troubleshooting Linux systems or Linux server, this is also a good area to look at, like where is your main drive, right? And what's the size of it? So sometimes you might be running out of drive space, so you can see that with gparted as well. Any question? Okay, so it tells you here that once you open your drive, you're going to look at your SDA1, which is going to be your main drive for your Linux systems. Now, when you select SDB at the top on the right, guess what drive that is? It's your USB, right? So if we mount the USB correctly, we should be able to see the first drive, which is for the Kali operating system, and the second drive, which is our USB drive. Okay, any question? Okay, so we need to answer what's the file system? ext4. Most Debian Linux, including Kali, or if you use Raspberry Pi, use Ubuntu, in that family, it uses ext4. Okay, if you took Linux class. So that's like Windows file system NTFS, right? Or exFAT. So this is like a file system that pertains to the operating system that we're using. That's Linux. So you put ext4 for A, and then the size of the partition, how big is it? It's 80 gig. Okay. How much is it used? So in the house, think of it like 800 square foot, right? Only 16 square foot is used for a section of that house, right? So the used space is 16 gigabyte. And then the unused, what's left of that house is 63 gigabyte. Okay. Now, black space in a drive can be considered unused, right? So when you delete a file, let's say a huge set of files, it should be able to put that back here, depending on the technology though. Sometimes it doesn't, right? But with flash technology or SSD, ideally that group of addresses, it should be given back to the system and say, hey, now you can use more, right? So as you adjust in the file storage of your partition, used and unused is then, it would equate out, right? So combine, you should have, if you take this number and add this number, it should be 80 gig approximately, right? Okay, now at the top, if you mount your USB correctly, you should be able to see your USB drive, okay? But if you look, all USB drive is going to be fat, okay? The reason why it's fat, if you're not familiar, if you haven't taken the CIS25 or 21, fat is used by all operating systems, including Mac OS. Okay, so this is why when you buy a USB, it's always going to be FAT either 32 or exFAT, which is 64-bit. So 32-bit is compatible with all OS, right? And file allocation table, just the way it organizes files a little bit different than the other file system. And as you can see, it's approximately 4 gig. Why is it not 4 gig, you know? I bought a 4 gig drive, but why is it 3.75? Some of the little bit of the drive is actually used for its firmware. Like when you plug it in and it works, right? So they use a little bit of the overhead inside the storage to make sure that you can mount this, right? There's instruction for the USB to be able to work with all your system. So you're gonna see like right under that. So that's, and it's blank basically, so there's nothing used or unused on there, right? Okay, so now once we're done with that, do not click the big X, click the small blue X, okay? Because if you click the big X, you have to start with the earlier steps to boot your Kali Linux again. So once you have all that basic application, yes. You plug it in. Mount it on the this is a software that plays with let the software know how yeah. Like generic. You can also go to the top of the scheme. And then you select it. Right, see how now it's selected, you can flip it out. You have to open it up. So all you have to do is open up run for smart events. Okay. Now so sometimes when you put here, like selecting this one. Yeah, so we can have to. Yeah, sometimes you have to, it's software inside your virtual machine, so it's too late for them. So, and or sometimes you have to reboot. Well, so, worked. I have never. I did something. Yeah, I mean, ideally we should. That. Yeah, if it does that, you can just close it and power it off and then stop the stuff. Yeah, so now you should be able to remember. Okay. The software that. It's like you know that it's the. This is like the Bible, so the motion. So once that would have been. So once that has to be on, people who mobilize it. If it doesn't check sometimes, but it starts doing it. So basically, you can mount it, but if it's not enabled, yeah, it won't see that. Okay, so we're good. All right. All right. Any other questions? Okay. So we talked about looking at, so now you can see the internal storage, right? And then the external storage or a secondary storage. So the more disks you have, it's going to call, so you have SDA1, right? You have a USB called SDB1. And if you have a third disk, it's going to label it SDC1, right? And so on and so on. So in some computer, you're going to have many disks, especially servers, right? So don't be surprised. So you'll be able to see different rooms, right? Different houses would have different rooms, and so on. Okay, so once we have the gparted complete, you can just click the small blue X, not the big X. Otherwise, you have to restart your machine again. So we're back in terminal. And what we're going to do is, if you're familiar, this is an L, by the way, right? Sorry if it's not clear. We're going to use fdisk in Linux. You can copy and paste for Kali command, or you can type, right? So sudo means super user do. We're going to elevate our privilege, and we're going to do fdisk -L. L in Linux usually means list. So you can use a command and it's option, right, to be able to get more for that command. Okay. And it's going to ask you for your password. So KALI. Just type, don't pay attention to the cursor, because if you do, you're going to be like not getting the password incorrectly. So now what we're going to do is so the cool thing about fdisk is it gives you more information. So if you're investigating things on storage, this is good for documentation, right? That's why I have you screenshot it. And in real world, right, if there's more detail, you have to screenshot more. So you're going to take a screenshot. So how do I do a screenshot? I can use Windows Snip tool, right? Open up snipping tool. And then here we're just going to click new, and we're going to drag the picture that we wanted to snip. And then we're gonna click the copy. Sorry. Yes, tutorial little. We're gonna click the copy, or you can save it, but I usually copy and then I paste it here. Okay, so press that, Control V, and I have an image. You can size this to whatever size you want, right? Again, you can use snippet and then just click new, snip, and then copy. All right. Then we're going to look at the screenshot or look at the output, and we're going to answer the question. It says, what is the sector size for your SDA1, which contains Linux operating system, right? The reason why I have you do this is because in the case that you are analyzing the image, you need to also examine like what stores it, right? What's the partition? What's the disk like? You have to be able to document it. And it also gives you a disk identifier information. So it's a way that it recognizes the disk. So for your SDA1, which is this right here, right? You know that it is a boot drive. They put an asterisk under boot, is just that's indicated. So it's a bootable drive for Linux. Okay. And the sector sizes is this number right here. So if you have taken CIS25 or a computer hardware class, it talks about sector size. And your files can, we will come back to this in another chapter. Your files can be in different section of the disk, right? It could be at one sector or another sector. So your disk is the 80 gig is broken up into this many sectors. And this many sectors. Okay. So if you're looking at your USB, right, it tells you that the per unit of your sector is 512 bytes. So each sector is made up of 512 bytes for your USB. This is pretty standard, but depending on the technology, some drives have larger sector, okay? So those are just section of the disk where it can store your file. Think of it kind of like in each room, you would have an area for things, right? So like an area to cook or, you know, put your stove. So that's just a section where the file can go. So on your USB drive, your standard sector is 512 bytes. Now, there are other drives that have larger sector, okay? And then, so now for your SDA1, if it doesn't have a disk identifier or a label, you can just put none, right? But if you can find the information, you can also look right here. So your disk identifier is this number. So if you look at it, if you're familiar, this is what we call a hex address. It starts with the 0x, right? So basically, this is a numerical value that is used to identify your disk, right? And so the way that the computer sees it is this number. And then your disk label, it says DOS. That's funny because it's Linux, but it says DOS. But it could be Callie doing that on purpose. But yeah. So DOS was originally created for it's pre-Windows, right? So I found that kind of funny because it's not Linux. Okay, just eat jokes. Anyway, so you have disk identifier for your SDA1, and then if your disk label, this is DOS, and then for the device information, your sectors, the number of sector, the size of the drive, you saw that, and it tells you the Linux type. Okay. How does it know? Because of your file system. Okay. And then your SDB. You have that information. But I didn't ask you to write SDB. I used to, but people were having issues with mounting the USB. But you can screenshot it for documentation purposes. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we are going to use Linux tool DD. Okay, two things are gonna happen. You are going to make a folder using a make dir or make directory in Linux. And you are going to create a folder under the subfolder called media called USB drive. And in that using that folder, you are going to mount the drive to that folder. Okay. In Windows, you can do the same thing. You can actually create a folder and then you can take a section of the disk and link it directly to that folder. So when you open up that folder, it's technically opening up that drive. So we can mount a drive to a folder. We do this for sharing purposes, for control purposes. But in this case, we are going to do it for image and investigation purposes. So in part C, you are going to come back. You can close your fdisk. You're going to open up your terminal again. And you can open as many terminals as you want. Okay. We are going to first create a folder. So you can copy and paste this command, but you can type sudo mkdir. So make directory / media / USB -drive. Now you can stick to the generic name or you can uniquely name it whatever you want, case 1, whatever, right? But for the lab, we just need to do this. And we're going to type in our password again. If it doesn't complain, if it doesn't throw an error, then you're doing your command correctly. Okay, so basically I made a folder under the media folder called USB drive. Then what you're going to do is you are going to mount your, let's do the USB SDB one. Sorry, I modified this because my last year class, they didn't install the extension pack to VirtualBox, so they couldn't do the USB part. So you should be able to mount your USB to your USB folder. Understand? Right? So make sure that we change this to SDB1. I'll upload this again for the modification. So we're going to do a mount command. So sudo mount dev sdb1, right? It's bolded so it sees what that is. Space / media, the location of your folder that you're going to mount. So in this process, you learn how to mount a drive, a USB drive, to a folder in Linux. Okay. And if it doesn't complain, then you did it correctly. If not, just check your. So if your USB drive is not found, it's going to say, oh, I cannot mount the drive because it's not found. Now, can you mount your Linux, your root drive to that? Sure, but it should be labeled as a different name. So we should change our step 19 to SDB1 as we successfully mount our USB. Okay. So make sure we make a folder from step 18 using the bolded command. And then we're going to type the SDB1 for our USB. Then what we're going to do is we are going to make another folder for our case. So we're going to do a sudo mkdir case 1. And as some of you recall from the first week, right, the more organized you are in cybersecurity, the easier your life is going to be. So forensic particularly, we want to keep things, organize things in folders so that way, because you might have a bunch of files and a bunch of cases, right? We want to make sure that we can find things quickly So we're gonna make a folder called case 1 for our case, and we are gonna open it up by doing a cd command case 1 or case 01. So once you do that, you are going to see that case folder in your path like this. It's added. So I'm at step 21. Okay. So before we do 22, read the 22, and it tells you that when you use the dd command, you can also use a split command. Split command basically create extension for the volume. And in the industry, normally you can only make images about 2 gigs. Okay? Software tends to, and it likes the 2 gig. So if you have 100 gig, a terabyte, you're gonna split it into many files. Understand? So if your drive is huge, okay, make it into small little increments of 2 gig. Because it's just software friendly, and traditionally DD is made to use smaller storage, right? Because that was back in the day. So what it says here is in raw file, you need to be able to use, you can use DD to copy files, to do an image, right? And it talks about how it can also perform data conversion, and it does byte order swapping in conversion from one format to another format for encoding. This is important for a specific software tool because some software is built with ASCII, right? Some of you are in programming, you know this. Some software is used with other type of encoding. So what we're gonna do is we are going to input this command. You need to do a super user do dd, right? And we're going to do if def sdb1. And dd is installed by default with Kali Linux and most Linux version. If not, you need to bring it in sdb. So you're gonna see a bunch of this, right? Because it is for encoding, they're just your terminal might not interpret things, but it's doing its thing. So what it's doing is taking your I'm sorry, I should do the whole thing. I apologize. Control C to stop. Copy a whole thing. So we're gonna take the image from our USB and we're gonna convert it so that way it's going to split into 2 gigs increments, right? And it's going to convert it into a GZ file. The reason why it's a GZ file, that's just a zip format in Linux, so that way it is nicer for you to transfer, download, put it on your drive, right? It's just a smaller file. So highlight everything. I should put this into one line so that way it doesn't confuse people. And it will take some time. Okay, sorry. If I ran the DD only, that's just gonna make it, it's just gonna run the. Okay. Pull this up so I can see my command. And for those of you who didn't know, you can up arrow key to repeat the last command. So highlight everything, copy, and then click onto your terminal, right click, and then click paste selection. And then press enter. That's how you copy and paste the command. And it might not show all of these symbols and things because it might not show the status, but it's going to do its thing. And it says to wait 15 minutes. Okay. If it exceeds the 30 minutes, right, you can cancel it. You should be able to see some kind of image file after 10-15 minutes. So keep in mind that your USB drive is 4 gigs, so it's like 20 minutes, depending on how fast your system is. But if not, right, it will take a long time. If it's a bigger storage. What's up? CP01. So on your computer, SD doesn't label it as SD1. So if it shows up as SPD, then it just SD. It doesn't understand how SD. So we just want to verify. But SPA1. Yeah, so the terminal is in the back. So when we call the application to console. It sees it now. No, so online it shows, it sees it as an SME on force. Different, we can see it.
If the,
Yeah,
if the partition says STD1, but the drive is STD.
yeah, then just change it to SDB. So that's a good question. I'm addressing it now here, right? If your drive is SDB, then SDB, right? If your gparted shows it's SDB1, then use SDB1. Whatever that it's labeled, you need to do. So. That's what we said in the long time that's bad people walk. And you guys think you know that? That's right. Yeah, until it's done, you're not gonna see anything. Like on mine, give me a second. On mine. See how it's just, there's no status or whatsoever, right? Technically, we can probably have it shows verbose, but we didn't do that, so, I don't know. So you just have to wait and trust that it's gonna run. That's the problem. Yeah, so after about 20 minutes, you can press control C and the process, because it's gonna change more than this. Only the USB we can change the power. The other you can't. Your host is.
Do we want to do just a partition or the entire drive?
Well, for the USB,
For the DV.
yeah, the entire drive.
Okay, then it's
It's gonna be long. But if you want the partition, yeah, 3.75 gigs. I don't
because
want.
if you do STD one, you're only gonna partition. You did that.
Oh, did you make a folder? Why the one? Think of it. And the rest of the top. Right, so you have one house.
There's some that.
So it sees it as one earlier, the other was. It only seen it as in. So that's why I think that's. That. So, make an image, you know, you use a black. It's 4 gig, so it's really. Yeah, so.
Or the areas you're giving.
I'm still at the beginning.
Sorry, Philip.
The whole I'm such a long was being. I don't know.
I don't have a problem. So, because you need an extension pack to allow these features to work. So you have to look at the specs. So we need to go. Let's find out. What about this we have CIS7.
In forensic, you know, only looking at.
Now we need to go to here. And so this is 7.2. Yeah. So even though you got this one, it's too high of a version. It's not compatible with the program. Right. So now we gotta go. Yeah. So now we gotta go.
Yeah, you can go look, but I mean, the prior command works for you, so it might already put there. It might not be complete, but it's there.
Oh, it's old.
SBB 1. SBB. Pardon? Okay, yeah, if you already have a drive in this, that's correct. Yeah, so if you have other drives connected, just make sure you check the right USB. You copy?
Yeah.
Yeah, you probably can copy, but not cut because it's not done. Is it done? So take a screenshot. Yeah, if you can't cut, paste it, copy and paste it, it's fine.
We need more. Now let me go back to here and make sure the back line. So if we. So remember that, 718. So this is 7112, right? Now when you go to, I'll let you get it to you. So here, 718, and now you're gonna go get extension back. Okay, so now it's allowed to go up, and then go to your, there, yeah. Now you're gonna go to, oh, it's opening. Oh, close that down. Then go to machine. No, click on. File, go to, file. And go to preferences. Yeah, sorry.
Okay. So once you have everything going, right, once it's completed, what you can do is you are going to, and you can cancel the process if you cannot wait for it to complete. And to cancel, right, go back to your terminal here and press Control-C on your keyboard. You might have to do it a couple of times. And what that does is it halted the process for this. Ultimately, if you wait for it to finish, it's going to tell you that it's completed, right? And then you are going to go into your desktop home icon, or you can open up your folder and then go to file system. And then you are going to find the file that you created. So let me see if they have. So double click home. And on the left, you should be able to see your file system. And if you scroll down, you should be able to see this. So even while it's working, right, like from mine right now, it's still running. It already created the image here, right? So this is a way that you can also back up your image on any drive, okay? Now, as I mentioned to another student when I was helping him, technically in forensic, we should keep things as DD file because that's what the software wants. But we will talk about that in another session. This particular file is really made for transferability, right? If you need to be able to move it into an area. But again, right, this is a way that we zip the file and it is an image file. So you would need to open it up because of the extension, via the DD command. And because it's chunking it up into gigabyte, it splits it, right? When you reassemble it, we have to put it back together as the entirety. It's kind of like, you know how you have one container and you split it into 2 containers now. We have to put everything back. So you can find that here. Now, in the case that if you want to, so the instruction tells you that you need to put this into your case 1 folder, right? So if you can't cut it, you can right click, see how it's not done. It's not letting me cut. You can copy it and then you can go into your case one folder. I think that was in. Yeah, and it's in the home folder, should be. Yeah, so under the home folder, you should have case one, go into here and right click and then, you can paste it when it's done. But ultimately, we want to have the image and we wanted to put it into our case folder. That was my goal for the lab, right? And here it kind of explain on how you use the dd command. And then once you have your folder, you can also go to use your list-al is going to give you more of the details. So I'll show you how what that command does. So open up your terminal again. You do ls-al, right? This is going to give you all the details for all the folders and the directories that you have. So in the Kali home, which is under the Kali directory, you should be able to see like everything that is pertaining to that directory, like pictures, templates, videos, right? And if you paste everything correctly, you can also see. So if I go into the directory like cd case 01, if I repeat the command for that, right? If I paste everything, it should show my image file in here. Okay. Take a screenshot, and then when you are finished, you can do a shutdown now. You can do a sudo shutdown now, or you can do a shutdown now to be able to take. And then make sure that we answer these questions. What did you learn in this exercise? What did we learn? We learned how to use gparted to look at different storage drive that we're working with, right? And mounting your USB in VirtualBox, that's such a task too, because that could be new for you. We also learned how to use DD to create an image that is compressed for the purpose of transfer or portability and storage. And then what else? Fdisk to look at partitions details on your storage drive. So later on, we're going to spend a little bit more on storage and file carving. And then how can you apply this to your future career? Could be many things in IT, right? Partition table can be used for troubleshooting with OS installation and file storage. Also in forensic, that's important for preparation or analyzing storage device. And then what are some of the best practices for data acquisition in Kali Linux? What do you think? We should be able to use DD to be able to split, and it talks about that, into 2,000 megabyte or 2 gigabyte chunks, so that way you can easily analyze or use software for data acquisition. So if you need to answer 30C, read this number 22, okay? And kind of summarize what DD tool does. That's the practice, is to make sure that we keep it as 2 gig limit when we create image files for forensic. That's for 30C. Okay, let me check on mine to see if it's done. Okay, so when it's done, it's going to tell you this kind of report, right? It tells me that it copied my drive, right? Roughly. And how many records it stores and how many records it read and how many records it store. So once that's done, you're gonna minimize this. Go to double click your home, go to the file system, right? And then under the file system, you should be able to see your system drive backup. So we can copy or, yeah, you can't cut. I don't think it lets you cut because it's in a certain directory, but yeah, copy. And then we are going to go back to our home folder. So go to Cali. And then case 1. Open that up and then you're gonna, oh, it doesn't let you paste. But yeah, it's fine. Well, you can just screenshot it there. I wonder if you can drag it. Let's try that. Yeah, so you can drag it. Yeah, if you guys want to move this into your case 1 or make a copy, just click it and then drag it into your Cali. It will just be in your Cali directory, right? And then see if you can put it into case 1 when it's done. But Cali has changed quite a bit in how, like, what kind of options and also Linux distribution. So there's some changes and then you just have to work around it. But if you look, right, look at it's 2 gigabytes. Okay, that's the one that, remember we split it. Okay, so success. And I'm gonna stop record and end the session.